Hi LAN team, welcome to the stream. Hopefully I'm not too loud. I haven't streamed for a while, so I'm not quite sure if my volume settings are up to date. Welcome to the stream. I don't know myself. Good to see you as well. I think there was a time when I assigned a lot of assign and unassign a lot of moderators, and maybe that's when you weren't quite active. I've been doing well. I've been falling behind a lot on level making. I'm trying to get a lot more levels out, but too many school stuff going on. Welcome to the stream, Pelcaria. Great to see you. I hope you're doing well today. Or at least have been doing well. I'm gonna start with this one. Honk honk. It is a difficult one to start with, not gonna lie. I can imagine it's a pretty useful, well actually not very useful, but interesting sound effect that's not too distracting. I sometimes like to use it, but just sometimes. It is quite early, but because of a trip I've been on hours ago, my schedule is a bit screwed up. Yeah, B or C, but I wouldn't put in C. I can imagine there's a lot more worse things over here. The yay sound effect, or yeah, whichever one. Maybe A tier? I think it's a pretty good one to put in A tier. It can help indicate something was done right. It's like a encouragement for players, if that makes sense. C? What makes you think so? I'm fine with your suggestions. Just wanted to know what you think. I was looking at these three on the bottom, and they're definitely S tier sound effects. They're not really sound effects to begin with. Where's the fourth one? Oh, right here. A bit annoying. Yeah, maybe I'll drop it down to B. They can get annoying if used incorrectly, especially. Well, any sound effect if used incorrectly is bad, but maybe this one could stand out in particular. Boss music also up there. We all know for sure these are gonna be the best ones. They're quite high quality. I can agree partially with what you're saying there. I don't know myself. The silence effect. I'm gonna touch on that later. This sound effect, not a fan, but it does help tell something, like something done wrong or something incorrect. Oh, silence? Yeah, good for music levels, except it's just silence, so nothing too interesting about it, I would say. But peaceful and bonus music also go up there pretty easily. Yeah, clap or cheer I like to use a lot more. I use those more, and never really the yay sound effect. I don't like how it's a voice more than a sound effect. I think party poppers should also be an A tier for that reason. I do like the peaceful sound effect, I just never really find a good way to use it. It's like something I use occasionally. Okay, moving on. The baby sound effect. Quite useless. So I'll put it in C. The the ding dong sound effect. I think this will be good in A tier. It is quite useful. I know a lot of top makers like to use it. Maybe not too many times, but in certain places or situations, I guess. Baby's creepy, yeah. Not sure why it should exist. I guess just to have something different in this collection. Yeah, I guess this one's nice to have in troll levels. Maybe good to have it with honk honk. The spark. I'm mainly picking the ones that I look at the most when making levels. I like to use the spark sound effect a lot too, but nothing too useful about it. It's just a cool sound effect. Same for maybe firework. Great to see, but not as great as these sound effects here, at least in my opinion. Thank you, aiming to game. It was quite a long, not coma, but break. Welcome to the stream. Laughing one. I do not like the laughing one. Very bad sound effect. I was wondering what's gonna be in D tier, and those two are, I would say they're perfect for D tier. The aw sound effect. Very odd name, but I think B tier is good for that one. A tier is more like the useful sound effects, and then C tier is the ones you don't want but could use sometimes. and B would be something in between oink and clatter. I think oink would be nice in A tier because it's not as amazing as these, of course. But I think many players, including the beginners, like this sound effect. Although I can see some players might hate it too. I don't know which is better, A or B, for the oink. Clatter, I'd say B. It is a great sound effect in the sense that it makes a huge effect. But not really useful, for me at least. Crowd laughter is okay. Maybe. But it's pretty much the same kind of laughter. The chipmunk laugh? You mean like this one on the left? It's mainly used for trolls, and you don't really see them used correctly, the laughing sound effects. Sorry, muted myself for a moment. I like to use clatter in a few scenarios, like a collapsing bridge in a speedrun level. And I've recently made a level, actually today, that uses not uses, would be perfect to have a clatter sound effect in it. This says Guha. I don't know how that's supposed to be pronounced. The horror sound effect, I think, would be great in S tier. I don't think there's a reason to have it in A tier. Heartbeat, though, maybe A. It is useful for giving suspense, but that's pretty much it. It's not really music, unlike these ones up here. This has laughter, and this says goo haw or whatever it's supposed to be pronounced. I wanna go with this one next. Punch sound effect. Also B tier, I would say. Same for this one. They're both nice to have, but really no reason to have them. No, actually, they're good to have, so they should exist. Just no exact reason to have them. Not quite sure how I should word that. Oh, didn't mean to put that in D tier, but C tier I think would be great for that. One way you can use this sound effect is light up a dark place for a second, I think. Aside from that, I don't see it being very important. B or C. It's it's not as interesting as the spark, honk honk, and punch sound effects like that, which is why I put it in C tier. Blue wheel. Yellow equal A. Oh, you're talking about the color. I see. Hi Evan, welcome to the stream. I assume your name is pronounced Evan. Flash and C. I could agree with that. Just got too worried that there's not enough in C, but I'm pretty sure there'll be some coming along. The zap sound effect. Very interesting one, but maybe not very useful. Also B tier. Glory and Doom. Those are tough ones for me to decide. I don't know what you guys think about it. The Glory and Doom sound effect. Yeah, I like Ninja Attack. I think it deserves a A tier for how well it's designed. I have only used it once though. I'm not a huge fan of the intense sound effects like this one. I do like it though. I used it in a level called Ninja Tower? I honestly forgot the name. Something like that, Ninja Tower. Pretty sure I made that level because I wanted to use this sound effect. One reason I made the level. Yeah, a bit cluttered, so it's not really something you want to use a lot of. And maybe less than 3 times. 1 or 2 times in a level. Anything more, it gets kind of repetitive. Glory, I'll put in A tier. I think it does a good job of intensifying certain events. Doom, on the other hand, not as great. I don't see it being very popular compared to Glory. And I can imagine Glory is used a lot in troll levels. Glad you liked that one, Pelgria. It was an interesting project. Quite different from the levels I usually make. The cheering sound. I should put this one along with the other party effects, I guess you could call it. Cheer, I like to use a lot. Not as much as the party popper and applause. I'll put it in B because it's not as intense as some of these up here. Well, of course, oink is not a very intense sound effect, but I think you know what I mean. I mean, compared to the party popper, cheer isn't as, again, intense, so I put it in B. The one where, oh, that one, the audience. I like this one a lot. I think it deserves a A tier for, also for how well it's designed. I don't know how else to say it. It may not be used as often as a lot of these right here, but judging by quality, I'd say it's deserving of A tier. I mean, there's really nothing wrong with this one aside from maybe blocking the screen a little, which can be a problem sometimes. Twisty turny. C tier? And whatever this is, I'm pretty sure twisty turny, I'm not too sure. One of them I think changes the colors, which I think the octopus does, and the squid I think affects the sound of the game, if I'm correct. Unless if someone knows, maybe you guys could check it, because I never really know the difference between these two. One of them is distortion, but I don't remember any distortion happening with the screen. Unless if you're talking about color distortion. Both of them I would put in C tier. Actually, yeah, C tier. Better than these. Electric guitar, I think it should be an A tier for its intensity. Yeah, I don't know how these would be useful. I almost want to put them in D tier, which I maybe should. Simply because it's almost useless as a sound effect. The beep sound effect. Is this what you're talking about aiming to game? I'm gonna put it in C tier if that's okay. It is good to have for some instances, but I don't see it being as interesting as many of these up here. Simply because it's a beep, and it's not a bad sound effect, unlike the ones in D tier maybe. But nothing too exciting about it. It's written as beep right here. I just read the name. I want to move on to these last and go with these first. Traditional. I don't want to say I forgot this one. I'm trying to remember what it's like. Oh, I remember now. I think it's good for A tier. really nice to have. The boo one is C or D. Oh, this one? Hmm, D tier because I don't know. I don't know why we would ever need it. D tier for pretty much useless. The scatting, never figured out how to pronounce it. Scatting I would put in A or B tier. I would put it in D tier. I'll put in B tier because it is a nice sound effect. I just think it's a bit too long and somewhat pointless to have, but not as bad as these two. And I know that it's popular among some makers, or I should say many makers. Personally, I never used it though. I'm very strict when it comes to sound effects I use, which is why I don't use most of these. Hmm, that's one use for that sound effect. Does that mean it's put on the player? I assume that's how it is. Oh, scatting. I don't know. That's an interesting thing to think about. The intended use of some of these sound effects. I don't know how scatting had its original importance. This sound effect I don't like much. It's too intense. Too intense for my liking. There's a lot more better sound effects out there that can be take over this one. Oh, okay. Yeah, speaking of which, it is used in many troll levels, especially this scatting sound effect and glory, both of which you could say is similar. Near miss is a nice sound effect. Maybe not good enough to be in A tier though, because it covers the screen more than it probably should be, and it's not a long sound effect, or I should say it could be longer and better, just not quite perfect for A tier. I'm not sure if you guys can hear the background music, by the way. Just wanted to make sure if that's working. Terrible music playing through. Terrible music sounds like something that would go in B, C, or D tier. I would say that is one of the intended ways to use the buzz sound effect. I'm not sure if Nintendo used it in one of their levels. Oh, I unintentionally put this one here. Kick sound effect. Simple and not very useful. Like a small addition to this list. So I'm gonna put in B. Oh, you don't hear it? My desktop audio source changed for some reason. Anyways, it was off the whole time. I don't know if it's working now. Should be. Okay, moving on with the jump sound effect. One difference with this compared to the kick sound effect I know is that it makes a rainbow, but still not as great as the fireworks, which I have second thoughts about. I think fireworks should be in A tier because it is like the sound effect many players would want. There's many ways you can use a firework in a level. Personally, I like to use it at not just at the end, but putting it at the end is one way I use it. Just before Mario or whichever character the player is leaves the level. Hated the warp in SMM1? What do you mean warp? There's a lot of sound effects I can recall as warp. Yeah, it is overused, but you could say it's meant to be used like that. I mean, looks like a pair that should go together in some way. If used together well, they make a rhythm for a good rhythm for speedrun levels. I'm pretty sure you're well aware of that. I did play SMM1, not any of the online features on it though. Made a ton of levels there. Maybe more than I have in SMM2. I made like 8 worlds. Not 8. That's a bit too many. Maybe 5's a little more accurate. 5 worlds of... No. Is it 5 worlds of 8? I'm not quite sure how I should word it. But anyways. It's a bunch of courses. Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about there, aiming to game. It's the one where the screen becomes all zigzaggy. And it's hard to tell where the player is going. Messes up the control a little. Shock sound effect. B or A tier? What do you guys think? Maybe B tier. Not the perfect kind of sound effect in my opinion. Like mentioned earlier, I considered these to be perfect in quality, just not as good as the ones in S tier. Some of the SMM1 sound effects I remember being too scary, as you say there, aiming to game. And lastly, the scream sound effect. C or B tier. I think C is good for that one. I like the shock one because it's more simple. This just makes it a bit too exaggerated, which is how I think of those two sound effects. I'm gonna go through each one of these one more time. Ninja attack. Not gonna change that one. Yeah, I guess this is good for now. A lot of sound effects, like you see here, they're either not good enough or actually they're not perfect enough to be in S tier, but they're not bad, which is why many of them are in B tier. And there are some good sound effects, which is why I'm assuming there's a decent number of them in A tier. Yeah, I'm pretty much done looking over all of these again. So that would conclude the stream. I don't have anything else to add, so thank you guys for tuning in and watching. I hope to stream next week. Still can't say that I will have the time, just a maybe. I will, like with the other tier lists, I will make a community post showcasing this tier list for those who haven't seen it, and for you guys to see it as an image. Thanks a lot for tuning in, Palkaria. Okay, gonna end the stream now. Yep, just ended the stream, Goomba. Unfortunately, you missed pretty much the entire... What's on the bottom of the screen there? That's Neagle's icon that I mistakenly put on screen.